A warm welcome to everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. My name is David Zemach-Bersin, and it is a pleasure to be with you today. This is the first class of Liberate Your Hands and Wrists, our new series. Today is an intro class, an introductory class, and the series begins next Thursday. Before we begin, I'd like to introduce our staff, all of whom are here to help you and to help facilitate your experience. So for today's class, I'm very grateful to be joined by Roz Ori. Roz is a Feldenkrais trainer, assistant teacher for this class, and he joins us from Tel Aviv, Israel. We're also joined by Peggy Honig, a Feldenkrais assistant trainer, assistant teacher for this course, and Peggy comes to us from Silver Spring, Maryland. And last but not least, Anastasi Siotis, who is a Feldenkrais trainer candidate and assistant teacher for this class. And Anastasi is joining us this time from New York City. The important thing to understand is that Roz, Anastasi, and Peggy are all here for you. They're all here to help you. If you have any confusion, any difficulty during the lesson, then just use the Zoom chat function if you can, and then they will reach out to you. We're also joined today by Ira Feinstein, who's the managing director of Feldenkrais Access, and Ira's here to answer any questions that you might have about the technical aspects of using Zoom, or any general questions you might have about Feldenkrais Access and our different programs. You can also send questions for Ira into the Zoom chat function also. We also have our Feldenkrais practitioner volunteers who are here to offer you a general visual guide for the lesson. So we will be spotlighting them. You'll see me some of the time, but you'll also be seeing them. And it may be that if you're confused about something, just taking a glance at your screen might answer the question, your question for you. So I'm very grateful to all of them for being with us. If you have your camera turned on, please try to have your entire self in view so that I can see you. And it's helpful to me in my teaching to have that visual feedback. But if you don't wish to be seen, that's just fine. Just select stop video also on your Zoom menu or the bar, wherever it is on your screen. As I said, this is our introductory class for a series on hands and wrists, which begins Thursday. I'm very excited about this series and this subject. I have worked for many, many years with musicians and with other people with hand difficulties. And I look forward to sharing my knowledge, my understandings with you. I've heard from quite a few of you already, so I understand that many of you here today come to this class with feeling that you have challenges, pain, and difficulties with your hands. And I feel confident that you will derive a great deal of benefit from this series of classes. In each class is going to focus on a different aspect of hand and wrist functioning. And today's introductory lesson, we're going to discover how the earliest and most basic movements of our hands and wrists are connected to how we use our entire self, and especially the movements of our head and neck, because many of you might know that pain and difficulty in the hands often is emanating from our neck, and that there's a difficulty in the neck, in fact, and not in the hands, but it refers from the neck to the hands because there's such a profoundly complex neurological connection and rich neurological connection that we experience the problem in our hands. So I would just like to say a couple of words for those who do have hand pain or discomfort or a history of hand pain. I'll be guiding you in today's class with the instructions. And so in my way of thinking, you and I, each of you and I, will be in a partnership of sorts. And your part in this partnership is to avoid any pain, to avoid any discomfort. And I really do mean that. It's not that I want you to do the movement in spite of pain or in spite of discomfort. I think that you're going to derive the greatest benefit if you avoid pain, if you avoid any discomfort at all. If you do have discomfort when you're doing the movements that we're going to be doing in today's lesson are quite simple, but I'd like to give you, before we start, a number of options. I'll be reminding you of these as the lesson progresses. So if you do feel discomfort, even the slightest bit, you can make the movement smaller. You can reduce the muscular effort that you're using. A third option would be to make the movement slower. This is especially important because if you make the movement slower, it might give you the time you need to sense yourself and to stop the movement before you feel the discomfort. Or if you do those three suggestions and you still have discomfort, you can do the movements in your imagination. And this will also be effective. So please try to stay in your personal comfort zone. And I believe that this is the process by which you will make the most progress. So I'd also like to add a few words for those who have never participated before in a Feldenkrais lesson or class. Feldenkrais lessons are not like conventional exercise. The lessons work in a very different way. First of all, we call these movement experiences lessons because we are accessing the neuroplasticity of our brain and using movement to do so, and using movement to communicate with the brain in a way that we learn something that is useful and beneficial to you. And I mean that to you personally. Every Feldenkrais lesson is structured in a way to access your neural capacity for learning and change. We create the conditions for success in a lesson by doing the following. And we do the movement slowly. In other words, all of us, we all do the movement slowly. We only do what's easy and comfortable. We make each movement small. We breathe easily, comfortably, and we create a pause or a rest between each movement. Yeah, so I would say, as my teacher, Dr. Feldenkrais, would say, that those rests and those pauses between the movements are actually more important than the movements themselves. And as I said, I'll be guiding you and I'll be reminding you of these ideas throughout the course of the hour. As Juniper mentioned, we'll be doing this lesson lying on our back. If you're welcome to use a pad or a rug, and but if you are uncomfortable, or imagine that you'll be uncomfortable lying on the floor, then I urge you not to. You can do the entire lesson lying on your back on a bed. So I would only suggest that if you will be lying on a bed, to please remove any objects or pillows from the bed so you have adequate room. So again, I just want to urge you to attend to your comfort. If you're uncomfortable, it's very, very difficult for your nervous system to pay attention. To pay attention to what? To pay attention to new sensations and to the information that we are trying to create and communicate to our nervous system. You will see that this really is, trust me, your path toward improvement, your improvement. Okay, I think we've spoken to that subject quite sufficiently. So let's begin.
David, did you want to show some images?
Oh, yes. Thank you, Juniper. What would I do without you? Yes, I'd like to show you a couple of images because oftentimes we lie on our back and we don't realize that we're uncomfortable. A lot of times we don't realize that we're uncomfortable until we actually experience being comfortable. So here, this person is lying very nicely on her back. Her knees are bent. Our knees will be bent also during the lesson. And you can see, just looking at the figure, that her head and neck are pretty much in the same orientation as if she was standing. Now, what happens for many of us is that we lie on our back and that's right, we can compare them, but our neck is too arched. Our chin is tilted up and back, and that's because of our particular difficulty. But there's no reason to lie like that on the floor, and it won't be useful in terms of doing the lesson. The other thing that happens, if we can have the next, okay, so that's right. The next thing that happens is that to address my discomfort, I put a pillow behind my head, but the pillow is so much that now it's tilting my head downwards. These might look like small differences. Why are we spending time wanting to address this? The reason is these positions, the differences in these positions, has an enormous influence on the muscular tonus of your hands. So you can see here, her chin is declined, and you can think easily how that might compromise her breathing, contract the abdominal muscles, etc., etc. So here, the issue of needing support behind the head is addressed. It's addressed with a minimal amount of cushion or pillow necessary so that the head is once again brought into that what we might call standing or neutral orientation. So I hope that's clear. Again, if you have questions, please don't hesitate to send them into the chat function. Now, for today's lesson, we're going to have our arms, one arm or both arms, bent at the elbow, as you can see, with the upper arm perpendicular to our shoulder. It should be comfortable for just about everybody. And then the fingertips are facing or somewhat toward the ceiling, but I will be directing you, and but it is your job. It is your job to make sure that you are comfortable. All right, so now I can say, let's begin. So please find a comfortable place on the floor where you can stretch out your legs if you wish. Begin with the legs stretched out. I'd like to direct your attention for a couple of minutes to sensing and feeling your contact with the floor. So you decide if you need or wish for some more cushion behind yourself, or need some support behind your head. And please close your eyes if you're comfortable closing your eyes. Only if you're comfortable. And just move your attention to your lower back and just observe the contact of your lower back with the floor. Feel how possibly one side is a little more raised from the floor or closer to the floor. And then, but without changing anything and without evaluating yourself. And now slowly just move your attention up your spine to the extent that you can feel your spine. Of course, your spine is composed primarily of bone, and in the literal sense, we can't feel bone, but we can sense it. We can sense the weight of individual vertebra with the floor. Although in some places, of course, you feel not one single vertebra, but a few vertebrae, and that's fine. One of the most important things about doing Feldenkrais lessons is that we begin at our beginning, not a beginning that we think we should, or that somebody else is where they're beginning. And now you can feel, as you move your attention up your spine, you can feel that behind your neck, there's another little gap, another place where your spine seems to lift away from the floor. And the back of your head. And now move your attention to your right shoulder blade, just observing where you feel your shoulder blade touches the floor, where it doesn't touch the floor. And then the same from your left shoulder blade, just in that we're just making very simple distinctions. Where do you feel the contact of your left shoulder blade? And how is that compared to your right shoulder blade? That's right. Does one shoulder blade feel higher or lower? Does one shoulder blade feel more forward or back? That's right. And now slowly sense your right arm, in other words, from your right shoulder downwards to your elbow, from your elbow to your wrist, and from your wrist to your hand. And just observe how your hand is lying upon the floor, if it's the back of the hand, the palm of your hand, the edge of your hand, the outer edge of your hand. And now the same thing from your left shoulder. Just move your attention downwards, slowly, slowly, to your left elbow, then from your elbow to your wrist, and from your wrist, your hand. And you might feel, when you sense how your left hand is lying on the floor, you might feel, oh, my left hand is lying on the floor differently than my right. Or you might feel, for example, that your right thumb is pressing into the floor, but on your left hand, you feel it's more your pinky or your ring finger that's making the strongest contact with the floor. But the most important thing is that you not change anything. We want to see how not trying to change, not trying to fix ourselves, not trying to improve, actually enables our process of improvement. All right. Please bend your knees and separate your feet about shoulder width apart. Your lower legs are more or less in a perpendicular to the floor. That's right. And now bring your right arm to where it is stretched out and perpendicular to your right shoulder. So bring it up along the floor. And then, that's right. And then bend your elbow so that your hand is more or less drooping a little, you could say. That's right. Okay, just your right arm, and your left arm remains on the floor. And now slowly just begin to open your right hand so that your fingers go toward the ceiling. That's right. And your hand straightens. And then you allow your wrist to bend and you close, not in a fist, you just bring your thumb and your fingertips toward one another. That's right. And then slowly open your right hand so you can feel your fingers separate, don't they? And then you allow your right wrist to bend and your thumb and your fingertips to come toward one another. That's right. Just slowly. And then you rest there for a moment and then open your hand, meaning that your fingertips go towards or oriented toward the ceiling. That's it. And you feel, it's an interesting feeling that as you open your hand, your fingers separate. In other words, your hand gets wide. And then when you bend your wrist and close your hand and the fingertips and your thumb coming toward one another, your fingers come close to each other. Now, see if you can exhale as you close your hand and inhale as you open your hand. You don't have to do it in a perfectly coordinated way at all, but see if you can definitely exhale as you close your hand and bend your wrist. Again, remember your wrist bends, so your palm is actually facing the floor, isn't it? When you close your hand. And when you open your hand, your palm is completely wide and open. That's right. Good. Now, as you do that, you feel, do your eyes move when you close your hand? In other words, are your eyes spontaneously moving to the left, to the right, or up or down when you close your hand? In other words, it's not simply a closing of your hand, but your eyes are somehow responsive to that opening and closing movement. Okay, let's rest for a moment and just observe your feeling of your right arm, your right shoulder, compared to your left arm and your left shoulder. And please bend your knees again. Your feet are spread about shoulder width apart. Bring your left arm up so that it's perpendicular to your left shoulder. Bend your arm at your elbow. That's right. And now slowly open and close your left hand. But just simply, it's a small movement. Again, to encourage you, if you feel the slightest discomfort, please do less. Please go slower. In other words, if you feel some discomfort, there's no rules about how to accommodate the lesson to yourself. You can make a very, very small movement. What we are interested in is finding how you can do that movement of opening and closing your hand in a way that only feels comfortable, only feels pleasurable to you. Again, you pause a little bit after you close your hand and your thumb and fingertips come toward one another. And when you open the hand and your fingers are oriented toward the ceiling, you rest again, pause again. That's right. And now again, observe if your eyes are somehow following the movement of your hand, your left hand. And does something change in your sensation of the left side of your neck, the left side of your face, as you open and close your left hand? But don't worry, it's not a matter of that you need to feel something. You'll see as we go along, your ability to appreciate these changes will improve exponentially for every one of you. All right, please rest your left arm. Keep your knees bent this time. Put your left arm on the floor. That's right, just observe if somehow something feels different. Bend your right arm in the way that we are. That's it. And now orient your hand, your palm, so that it's turned toward your face. Right? So your elbow is in a line with your shoulder. That's right. For some of you, you might have to bring your elbow up a little bit more so that it's and now orient your palm so it's more or less towards your face. That's right. And just go ahead and close your hand, bringing the fingertips toward one another, and open your hand. That's right. And just observe the quality of that feeling. Again, your wrist bends as you close your hand, and then your wrist straightens as you open your hand. And that's right, your fingers separate as they open, and then your fingers come closer to one another. That's right. Now, turn your lower arm, turn your wrist so that your hand is oriented to the wall to the right of you. In other words, 180 degrees from where it is now. That's right. And do the same movement and see if you can feel that the sensation of opening and closing your hand is different. That's right. Feel that. And now turn your wrist again so your palm is towards your face, and see if you can feel that one of those two, what should we call it, orientations of your hand facilitates the closing and opening, especially the closing. That's right. Beautiful. And now turn your wrist again so it's facing the wall to the right of you. You feel that automatically constricts the movement of your hand, doesn't it? That's right. And your breathing is easy. And now bring your palm to be oriented towards your face again. That's right. And now each time you open and close, watch your thumb in your mind's with your eyes are closed, but think of watching your thumb. Think of watching your thumb as it goes towards closing and opening. In fact, only move your thumb. Only take your thumb down and up, but you're watching internally. You're watching your thumb. And now do the same thing with your second finger. That's right. With your second finger. That's right. You open and close your second finger and you watch with your eyes. Beautiful. And now your middle finger. You open, but only the middle finger goes toward the ceiling. And then you drop your middle finger down as if, that's right. Good. Your breathing is easy, simple. And now your ring finger, your fourth finger, slowly. That's it. It's a little harder to have an independent movement of that fourth finger. So you just do the little bit you can do easily. You open that finger and then you close it, letting your wrist bend a little. That's right. Your wrist needs to bend. If you keep the wrist straight and you try to bend the fingers toward the palm, that's creating an unnecessary difficulty. So you want to allow your wrist to bend. You keep the wrist straight all the time, you're for sure going to create pain and discomfort. And now your pinky. You independently, that's right, move your pinky toward the ceiling and then down towards the floor. But when your pinky goes down towards the floor, you allow your wrist to bend. Yes, you're just moving one finger at a time, but you're not using a muscular effort to restrain the other fingers. It's that your intention is with that one finger. And now do all five fingers as we have been doing. Open and close and open. And when you close, your fingertips and thumb come toward one another, and your wrist, you allow your wrist to bend completely. And then you open and your fingers come apart, they stretch apart, and your fingertips are pointed toward the ceiling. That's right. All right, rest for a minute and just observe the way your right arm is lying on the floor, your right shoulder blade. Bend your knees. Bend your knees. And separate your feet about shoulder width apart. All right, bend your left arm. And orient your hand toward your face. And go ahead and just lightly open and close all five fingers. Again, your wrist bends when you close the hand, and your wrist straightens or even maybe goes a little bit past straightening. In other words, your wrist extends when your fingers go toward the ceiling. That's right. Very good. You'll see it's the directing of your attention. It's the directing of your attention that helps to create the information that your brain needs for helping your hand to be able to move and function more easily. And now turn your arm so that your palm is facing the wall to the left of you and feel the difference. That's right. Whether you're talking about lifting the hand and the opening movement, or bending the wrist and the fingers coming together, can you feel? It's different than when our hand was oriented toward our face. And now compare, orient your hand toward your face again and feel the difference. In which of those two orientations does your hand feel lighter? The movement of your hand feel lighter, easier? And now initiate the movement from just your thumb. And even though your eyes are closed, you can visualize your thumb and the movement of your thumb as it goes down and your wrist bends, and as your thumb goes up and your palm opens a little, and then your second finger, the same idea. That's right. Feel where you can reduce the effort in your legs, in your face, and now your middle finger. That's right. And your fourth finger. And your pinky. That's right. Good. Rest your left arm on the floor. You see, with each variation, we reduce some of the unnecessary effort that was in these very, very basic movements of our hands. And we begin with hopefully what is a very simple movement, small, slow, simple. And that creates the conditions whereby our brain can feel where the extraneous effort is, where the disorganization is. Okay, please bend your knees. And now bend your right elbow as we've been doing. Bring your right arm up. That's right. And now slowly, as you close your hand, turn your head and eyes to the right. And as you open your hand, bring your head back to the middle. So as you close your hand, you turn your head and eyes to the right. And observe, does that make the closing of your hand more difficult or less difficult? Does it make does your wrist, the bending of your wrist, feel lighter, easier, or more difficult? But when you open your hand, you take your head back to the middle. You close your hand, you turn your head and eyes as if you wanted to see that closing of your hand. And then as your hand opens, you turn your head back to the middle. That's right. But slowly, and feel where you can reduce your effort, meaning your muscular contraction. That's right. Now, let's see if we can feel the difference. This time, turn your head to the right as you open your hand. And if you go slowly, you'll feel there's a difference in the sensation of your neck. That when you turn your head toward your hand, one of those two ways, there's hardly any sensation of your neck working. And when you turn your head to the right, as your hand is doing the other movement, you feel that? It's you can feel the effort in your neck, the contraction of your neck. Do it again. Turn your head to the right as you close your hand, and then you take your head to the middle as you open your hand, and then try opening your hand and turning your head to the right. One of those two movements feels simpler than the other. That's right. Beautiful. Rest your right arm. And just feel the way your right hand and your right arm are lying on the floor now compared to when we started. Bend your left arm. Orient your hand toward your face. And now the same idea. You turn your head to the left as your left hand closes. And you take your head back to the middle as your hand opens. We're trying to remind your brain, remind your nervous system of the original organizing pathways, neural pathways, muscular pathways that were there from probably in utero for most of us in relationship to the coordination of our head and eyes with our hands. And now try the opposite. Try that opening the hand and turning your head to the left. Can you feel a difference between, you don't need to describe the difference. You don't need to verbalize the difference, but can you sense if someone were to say, which of those two ways is easier? Try again, closing your hand and turning your head to the left. And then as you open your hand, you take your head and eyes back to the middle. And then try the other way. Opening your hand as you turn your neck, and you feel even the movement of opening your hand changes. All right, please rest again. And just observe the way your shoulder blades are lying on the floor now. Is something different compared to when we started? And observe your breathing. Please bend your legs, your knees, stand your feet again, spread about shoulder width apart. Bring your right arm to be bent at the elbow and the palm more or less oriented towards your face. That's right. And now do a funny sort of thing. As you close your hand, exude your tongue out of your mouth to the right. Just take your tongue gently, not strongly. You take your tongue to the right. If you don't want to exude your tongue, you can just take it, you can take it toward your right cheek from the inside. Either way, you'll feel something. That's right. As you close your hand, you see, we are an integrated whole, and almost all of the time, when we experience pain, discomfort, difficulties, it's because somehow we stopped using ourselves as an integrated whole. Watch. Now take your tongue to the left so that you can feel what happens to the feeling, the sensation of opening and closing your hand if you take your tongue to the left when you close your hand. If you know, just a little thing like that, of taking your tongue to the left, you see, it has an influence on the tonus of your hand, the dexterity of your hand, the softness of your hand. That's right. And now take your tongue to the right again as you close your hand. Very good. Rest your right arm on the floor. Just feel how your right shoulder, the right arm is resting. The right side of your neck. That's right. The movement of the closing the hand is easier. That's right. Bend your knees, stand your feet, and now organize your left arm to be bent at the elbow, your palm facing your left cheek, and do the same thing. Take your tongue to the left as you close your hand. You find in terms of the effort, it's almost as if just the tongue going to the left is enough in and of itself to close your hand. And that connection was wired into us before we were born. Before we were born, we turned ourselves, we oriented ourselves toward our hand. That's right. Now take your tongue to the right and feel it. It changes your sensation of your left hand. If you use the same amount of effort, you feel, to me, I feel like my hand is stiff as a board when I take my tongue to the right. That's it. And now go to the left again, just so you can feel it, that there's a difference. And it's a difference that makes a difference. And you're feeling the difference is what is most provocative to your brain. That's it. That's what provokes your neuroplasticity to be accessible and available. All right, rest your left arm and rest for a moment. I understand. I know that difficulties with our hands can be very challenging, even devastating for many. I've had musicians come to me in my practice who can literally no longer play because of the pain and discomfort in their hands. But they can always be helped because our hands have a profound connection to large areas of our brain. And so it makes the improvement, it facilitates the improvement, it facilitates the process. But I understand that it's very challenging psychologically, challenging emotionally. Some people have to give up activities because of the discomfort in their hands. But I believe that you can restore your ability to use your hands by making small little steps, one little step at a time, one increment of improvement at a time will gradually lead you to being able to restore the ability that you had almost your entire life. All right, please bend both arms. Oh, I want to show you something. Here, just bend the right. You go ahead and straighten the left arm. Just lie it on the floor. And now, as you close your right hand, tilt your knees to the right. Doesn't matter how much. As you close your right hand, tilt your knees to the right. Just what's easy. As you close your right hand, you tilt your knees to the right. And as you open your right hand, you bring your knees back to the middle, toward the ceiling. That's right. Beautiful. Now, feel what happens to the sensation in your hand and your right arm if you tilt your knees to the left when you close your right hand. You see, we started off, I told you when we began that the movement of our hands is connected to our entire self, that we are an integrated whole. And feel, is your hand softer? That's right. Is your hand softer and close more easily when your knees tilt to the right or to the left? Good. Switch your arms and do the same thing. That's right. Your left hand oriented more or less toward your face. And now as you close your left hand, tilt your knees to the left. Exhaling as you do that, feeling where you can reduce the effort. By reducing the effort, it makes it easier for us to make these essential sensory distinctions. That's right. Just what's easy. We could come at it in a different way, just to show you how intrinsic these connections are. Feel what happens to the tilting of your legs if you tilt your legs to the left when you open your hand. It's a funny thing. This simple, basic, foundational movement of our hands affects our entire self. It affects our breathing, our abdomen. That's right. And now again, tilt your knees to the left as you close your hand. Beautiful. That's right. All right. Rest for just a moment. Of course, you will have access to the recording of this lesson whenever you want. And you can do the lesson tonight, tomorrow, the next day. And you'll see that if you only do very small movements, just what's easy for you, not what you want to be easy, but what's easy today, you'll see that tomorrow there'll be an improvement. Tomorrow it will be better. All right, now go ahead and this time bend both knees and bend both arms. And now alternate. You close one hand and you open the other. And then you close the other hand and you open the other. So when you close the right, you open the left. And when you close the left hand, you open the right, just slowly. And now turn your head and eyes toward the hand that's closing. And just observe your feeling in your neck, in your face. I'll say it again. You turn your head and eyes toward the hand that's closing, as if you wanted to see it, to meet it. And when one hand is opening, the other hand is closing. That's right. Not turning, just opening. That's right. Now, see, if you turn your head toward the hand that's opening, does something feel different in your neck? You feel? It's as if turning your head and eyes toward the hand that's closing has an ease. And turning your head and eyes toward the hand that's opening, there's a restriction there. A constrictedness, if you will. That's right. And now go ahead and tilt your knees in the direction of the hand that's closing and turn your head and eyes toward the hand that's closing. So as your right hand closes, you tilt your knees to the right and turn your head and eyes. That's right. And then your other hand opens. And then you come through the middle and your head is in the middle and your knees are in the middle. And then you turn the other direction to look at your closed hand and your knees tilt with your head and eyes. That's right. You can go a little faster if you want, a little bit, a tiny bit. This is everything turning, you could say, in the congruent way. That's right. And now a few times turn your head in the opposite direction. Turn your head toward the hand that's opening and see if you can feel the difference in your hands, in your legs. That's it. And now turn your head again toward the hand that's closing. Good. Very nice. All right. Please stop. Bring your arms down and stretch out your legs. And you feel. Would you say that your shoulder blades are lying on the floor differently? And the feeling of your hands and your lower back? Please bend your knees one last time. And this time, bend your arms, that's right, at the elbow, and then bring your elbows off the floor so you can bring both hands in front of your face. They maybe 10 inches in front of your face. That's right. That's right. With your elbows pointed down towards your legs. And now slowly, just begin to open and close your hands as we've been doing. And see if you can feel that when you close your hands, something changes in your chest and in your stomach. That's right. And your eyes. And when you open the hands, something changes in your chest. Your chest gets a little wider when you open your hands and gets a little closed and narrow when you close your hands. That's right. That's how intimate is this connection between the movements of our hands and wrists. That's right. Good. Now bring your knees toward your chest. So your feet are off the floor. That's it. And your knees are open. So there's a big space between your right knee and your left knee. And imagine there's a relationship between your right elbow and your right knee and your left elbow and your left knee. And now see if you can begin to roll to the left as you open your hands, both hands, and then come through the middle, come back through the middle and close your hands, and then begin to roll to the right and open your hands. So it's almost as if the opening of your hands is like you're holding a ball, and then your hands close when you come through the middle, and your hands come a little closer to you. And then as you roll to the left, your hands open widely. That's right. It's as if your hands opening is rolling you to the left, and then your hands closing is bringing you through the middle, and then your hands open, and that takes you to the right. That's it. That's it. And you breathe easily. You breathe comfortably. That's right. But the hands close when you go through the middle. Close in the middle and open when you roll. That's right. And you can go a little faster if you like. Good. Please stop. And just take a moment again to observe and feel your sensation of yourself, your contact with the floor compared to when we started. Just to reiterate what I said earlier, that each class will have a different focus, a different way of approaching the improvement of our hands. But of course, it's not just improving the movements of our hands, but you can feel it's the improvement of our whole self. But I think you will get the tools in this series to really make a difference, to really help yourself to be able to use your hands in an integrated way, in the way that you were meant to. All right. Slowly bend your knees. Slowly roll to your side, either side, and then come to sitting. That's it. Slowly. And come to standing slowly. That's it. And just stand for a moment and observe a few things without putting your hands right away in your pockets or right away doing something with yourself. Just stand as you are and see if you can feel that something is different in the distance from your right ear to your right shoulder and your left ear to your left shoulder. In other words, something changed in your shoulders and how your shoulders are hanging. That's right. And the length of your arms, and just observe if you feel that your weight is a little more back over your heels than usual. And walk around for just a moment and you'll see something also very interesting, that something might feel different in your hip joints or your legs, because that unnecessary effort or tonus in your hands has been affecting your legs, has been affecting your hip joints, your lower back, your neck. It's not just some separate, individuated part of ourself. Our hands are related to our whole self. All right. It's been an honor to be with you.